This is our next guest stars panel. This is actually guest stars panel number 6, but it is our first guest star panel for the day. Before I introduce all of our wonderful guests right now, I'd like to make a brief announcement. Okay, as you know, things happen. Unbeknownst to us and beyond our control, things happen. Mr. Whitmore, James Whitmore, has contracted an infection in his leg and had to go to the hospital immediately. He would love to be here with you. You all know that. We wish him a speedy recovery, but hey, something may happen later. We don't know, but don't expect him for this panel. So without any further ado, our guest stars from Quantum Leap are here to converse with you once again. So without any further ado, let's bring up the lovely Harriet Marguilies. Thank you. Marguilies, excuse me for the mispronunciation. Mrs. Harriet Marguilies. Hello, ma'am.
Hi there.
I'm going to give you some time. Oh, sure. You want to sit here? And as you can already see, it's Jay.
Oh, wait a minute. You know what?
It's Old Home Week. By the way, the lovely Deborah Pratt has just walked on stage. She will be with you.
Hey, Deborah, someone brought a script, Color of Truth, and I told them that they could ask you if you would autograph it.
I would be honored to. Absolutely.
I'm going to let the lovely Miss Deborah Pratt introduce everyone who's going to be on this panel with her, since she knows them better than I do. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Deborah Pratt.
Good morning. I want to say quickly, Mark has done, from every little bit that I've seen, such an amazing job at hosting and setting these up and keeping things flowing. And so, yes, a big round of applause for him. And for Brian. Wait a minute, have you all been having fun? Yes. This has been incredible. How's the costume? I didn't get to see the costume. Was it fun? Who won? Play it again, Sam, episode? Uh-oh. All right, I can't wait to see these pictures. And again, thanks to Brian for making this all happen. It's really well done. It's flowed well. Everybody's been very clear. So I want to take a second. I know Harriet's already out here, but this is a real personal honor for me. Harriet has been Don's assistant since I've known her. Back in Airwolf days and Magnum days, right? Harriet met Don Belisario in 1980. He had just created Magnum PI, and she was assigned as his production secretary. She worked on all his Universal series, Tales of the Gold Monkey, Tequila and Bonetti, Airwolf, and Quantum Leap. Don left to go to Paramount, and Harriet remained at Universal. When Don's series Jag was canceled by NBC and picked up by CBS, she discovered he'd created a beautiful blonde character that he had named after her. She was so touched, she went to Paramount to give him a hug, and he asked her to work on the show, and Harriet agreed. And they've been working ever since together, all the way into NCIS.
Right.
This was what fascinated me. Prior to meeting Don, Harriet worked on Kojak, and she wrote a teleplay. Wow. I'm going, where's the next one? Wait a minute, we need you, Harriet. Before joining the studio, she worked as an entertainment trade paper reporter, a columnist, and a press agent. Watch out, Jay. And represented clients such as Bill Cosby and Tiny Tim. Ladies and gentlemen, Harriet Marguilies. And I want to add one thing more, because this is a lot of production, but the reason that these conventions happened is right there. We were doing the show, and Harriet, who somehow had become the input for all the fans, she discovered the fans on the internet. She came into my office, she said, you gotta check this out. There are all these people on the show after the show. You gotta check this out, and they talk about the shows. And when we decided, you know, we've got leapers, we could have a convention, I remember talking to Harriet going, how do you get to the groups that, you know, put on these conventions? And she said, I know. And the first 2 conventions the reason they happened and how they came together and the style that's been set and still, I think, plays now 20 years later is Harriet Marguilies. Ladies and gentlemen, the queen of the leaps, leap cons. All right, now sharing the stage are the people that really made this show happen and tick on a daily basis. If I may introduce Ron Groh, he's been a member of the DGA. He worked as a production manager since 1980, and apart from the 5 years he spent working on Quantum Leap, Ron also worked on Dukes of Hazzard, Chips, Eric Estrada, okay, their story is there, and a number of TV shows and various Disney films. He was the heartbeat, I gotta tell you, that kept us on time, happening, moving. And every time we ran into a problem, he'd say, you can't have that, but this is what you can have. And I think that's the greatest gift anybody can have is somebody working with them. So when you can't have something, they know 10 other things that you can have. Ladies and gentlemen, Ron Groh. You know, Quantum Leap was a really unique show. And it was a really tough show because every week we had to do a different location. Not only a different time, but we had to create a different location in that time period. And so the person that did that for us was Mike R. Beche, our location manager. Mike, come on out. Mike's been a location manager since 1981. He spent 4 years working on Fantasy Island, 3 years on T.J. Hooker, 5 wonderful years on Quantum Leap, yes, and 11 years on Seventh Heaven. And now he's on...
The Secret Life of the American Teenager, which is a big hit on ABC Family Channel.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Going on with the hits. All right, now, we had a lot of fun on Quantum Leap. And one of the reasons that we had so much fun was because we could put Scott in these amazing situations. And Scott Bakula, as you know, is one of these incredible actors who just put on the coat of the character that was created and made it so much his own. And when we walked in and said, you're going to be a catch trapeze artist, he would go, okay. And then we'd say, and you're going to be a stuntman. And he would go, oh, okay. And he was always enthusiastic and he was always wonderful because he knew he was going to be in the hands of Diamond Farnsworth. Ladies and gentlemen, Diamond Farnsworth. Diamond grew up in Hollywood Hills. He married Linda, who's really wonderful. I love her. And they have a beautiful daughter, Courtney, and are about to have their first grandbaby. Diamond is a real live cowboy from birth. He rode in rodeo circuit as a young man. He tried his hand at a variety of other activities such as boat racing, car racing, skateboarding, skydiving, and motorcycle riding. These activities helped pave the way for his current profession as stuntman. Diamond had been working as a stuntman since 1968 with his first role in the film Paint Your Wagon. He's been, I know, yes, give him a hand for that. He's been coordinating film stunts since 1980. Some of his credits include First Blood. Thanks, Max. First Blood, Rambo, Rhinestone, No Way Out, The Big Easy, Nadine, Pink Cadillac, The Astronaut Farmer, and The Dukes of Hazzard. The younger years for his TV credits include Tales of the Gold Monkey, Quantum Leap, 3 on a Match, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, First Monday, Crowfoot, Jag, and NCIS, currently in its 6th season. So now that we've got you in this room, I think what I'd love to have this amazing panel do is kind of give you what it was like from the moment that, you know, Harriet was in the office with us when we were trying to get these scripts out and turning them over, and then you have to get them to Ron, and then Ron's got to get them to Mike, and then Mike says, okay, don't kill anybody. Make sure it's all safe, which Diamond did with perfection. So, Harriet, you want to talk just a little bit about how we got these scripts out? And who they went to and how they were distributed? And
Well, I'm trying to think. It was the beginning of Microsoft Word. Everybody know about the internet? Well, actually, Universal didn't think it was worth investing in. So, in order to talk to the fans, people would call me from all over the world, believe it or not. And I would fax us, what's happening on the set and what's going to happen when he leaves next time. And they would put it on something called Prodigy, which I don't think exists anymore. But that's how the network worked, or that's how I worked it. And, about the scripts, well, it was Microsoft Word, which just typed the script without the numbers and the continueds, and you had to put it through something called ASCII. Anybody know what that is? You do, huh? On something called Scripter. I used to call it Bill Gates' Revenge. So I envy anybody. I'm not doing scripts anymore, but now they have these wonderful final draft that puts the numbers in, while you're typing it. But it was pretty hellish. And unfortunately, once you put it through Scripter, you couldn't change it. So if Don had to revise, he couldn't work in Scripter. He would go back to the original script, which meant we had to read every line to see where he put the changes in. Are you all following me? Can you imagine? And which we did. And I remember, and then we had to proof the damn thing. And Don would stand in the doorway ready to leave, and he said, "Give me the script." And I said, "We're still proofing it." He said, "It takes you longer to proof than it did me to write it." And I said, remember the old commercial? "We will release no script before it's time." Just to drive him crazy. I don't know why he kept me around for, let's see.
because you're a perfectionist. It's true. You're absolutely right. Don was one of the last people to come to computers. He did not want to do computers when they first came in. He loved his electric typewriter. So to get him to move to computer was a true act of God or time or something.
Well, I used to say Don wrote his greatest scripts, too, on a typewriter.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a reporter, or a former reporter, like I am, actually. And so he used to just type away. And then I would proof it and retype it and send it to the print shop. Boy, this is jogging my memory. I mean, it was like, oh, bless you. It was like some fantasy, It's so simple now. I really envy everybody, but.
And then when that script was done, we give it to Ron.
Late.
But now we know why.
Right.
In episodic, there's 7 or 8 days of preparation, and then the shoot takes 7 to 8 days, depending on how many days are allotted in the budget. Since the scripts would arrive late for all the reasons Harriet's mentioned, Don would often come to us in the initial concept meeting and say, "I need a church, a park, a library," and so we would start scouting, looking for these locations, preferably close together, so there wasn't a lot of time wasted in moving from one place to the other. But the highlight of all of this was our location scout lunch, which we got to know the restaurants in the area quite well. And a lot of our pre-planning and production took place there. So often we'd get the script probably sometimes the day before, sometimes the night before, and we really didn't have any time to build any sets, although we would have one set to build, which usually took all weekend on overtime and double time and was much more expensive. So consequently, we were on the road outside for 6, 7, sometimes a total 8 days of the entire episode. And it was quite an experience.
We would call it life in the van. We would get there at 7 o'clock in the morning, we'd all pile into a van, and we would take off scouting. And a lot of times we called it cold scouting. And that's when you would go out with Don just telling you, find me a house. And as we're driving around, the phone would ring and Don would say, now make it the house eastern side, make it Mexican, make it whatever. And we'd start scouting. And a lot of times we had directors, we had one gentleman named Joe No Picatano, who would never pick a location till the night before filming.
Wasn't Joe here Friday? Yeah, Joe was here Friday.
Joe No Picatano. And he'd never pick a location. And we'd always pull it off. And it was very expensive to do it that way, but the show paid off. And it was a big hit. And we would work with Diamond, and we would try to, if we knew it was big stunts, we'd try to figure out some place that he wouldn't die.
Thank you, Mike.
And locations were, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 1955 to 2020. Was that the?
Well, I mean,
We couldn't go back. I think it was 1955. Some shows were 1955, and then we'd go up to the year 2020, I think.
we pretty much code that, but we had one show, Leap Between the States, where we actually went back to 1860, the Civil War.
Oh, the Civil War, you're right. And we
Right,
did
the
that
war
at Disney
between the
Ranch.
states. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, it was amazing, again, I have to say, if you look at the quality of the show and how well it holds up 20 years later, I think that we had an amazing team who would take what we as the writers put down on paper and bring it to life in a way that made this show seem like a major movie every week. Don't you think so? But that's the team. That's Ron, that's Mike, and then when Diamond stepped in, I mean, he added an edge of believability, and to Scott's true talent, Scott was fearless. But Diamond, tell us about some of the stunts that we did.
One thing I have to say, I was very blessed to be able to work with a man like Scott Bakula. This guy's got more talent than I've got through my whole body. He is just unbelievable talented. And one of the shows, he never rode a motorcycle, ever. Now, me growing up, we all, everybody thinks, never rode a motorcycle. And in 30 minutes, I had him riding a big motorcycle. Not a little one, but a big one. And I always said he was like a duck to water. He just took to everything so great. He, on the trapeze show we did, he didn't like heights that much, and hanging upside down as a catcher kind of got him sick. I mean, and talk about every day we had him up hanging upside down. He would come down and go outside and, and get sick because it just throw him off so much. But he didn't back down one iota, where most actors would have said, that's it, I'm not doing this anymore. He was up there every day swinging upside down, and he did a great job. Unbelievable. I mean, that's the kind of guy, as an actor, you want to work with. He would try anything, and it's always better to get the actor to do most of the stuff so you can see that it is the actor. And he was just unbelievable. And like I say, I couldn't ask for a better actor to work with than Scott Bakula. He was just fantastic.
I remember you taking Scott out to the trapeze training area.
Right.
Which I said, I want to go.
And she came.
And I said, I am so glad I don't have to do this.
No, you did good up there. You swang across and had fun. And
It was that let go, let go, let go, let go, let go.
right, to go into the net.
to go
And-
into the net. You know how hard it is to let go 20 feet up above a net? It's hard.
So you swing back and forth till you get your confidence up, then your hands are slipping, you go, well, I'm gonna have to come off this one way or another, so.
Great teacher.
But that really made Quantum Leap a big hit was everybody, though. It doesn't take one person, it takes a team. And we were like a family. Everybody loved everybody, everybody pitched in. If I needed help, everybody would come and help, you know. If you're doing a Western or if you're doing car stuff, everybody gives 100%. And that's what made it so great to work on this show, you know, with everybody. And I'll say one thing again about Scott was we would put in a 17-hour day, and at the end of the day, he would have to go home, learn his lines, and before that, he went to the gym, came back, showered, and learned his lines. But before all that, after we wrapped, he helped the grips and electrician put all their stuff away. Every night, he'd do that. He'd help the grips put all their stuff away. I've never seen an actor do that.
That's true.
Never.
Well, one thing we also, I think you'll agree, is out of 5 years, Dean Stockwell and Scott Bakula never became stars. They never acted like a star. They never treated the crew like a star. They treated everybody like they were just a nice human being. And so out of 5 years, I worked on a show called Simon & Simon, where one actor would not come out of his motorhome until the other actor would come out of his motorhome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you would sit there for 20, 30 minutes talking one actor just to put his foot on the step so the other actor could look out and put his foot on the step. It would be a contest. And Dean, like you were saying, I was just going to bring that up, is at night, Dean, and I mean mostly Scott, would grab cable, would start saying, come on, boys, let's go home and get some sleep. And so for 5 straight years, it was nothing but a family. It was the greatest feeling in the world when you would not have to worry about your backside. On a lot of shows, I would call it wearing the armor, because when you walk out of a production meeting, you hear tink, 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 because everybody would be shooting at you. Everybody wants you to die. And on this show, we were one big family, and we stuck together. And like Diamond said, we helped each other. And we just didn't care about anything except having a good time and putting out a good product.
It's really true. I mean,
Yeah.
this series was a family, and there was so much love and so much fun. And I think, especially on the set, Dean and Scott set that tone. They knew if there was a problem. Scott knew if there was a family problem or an emotional problem with somebody in the crew. He was daddy. And Dean was there, but their joy to be with each other and the fun that they had. Remember the pie fight?
Right.
I think that was on Seabride. I think they did it more than once, though. Poor Scott, I think I've done some horrible things to him, but he had to be in garbage for like 3 days. It was relatively clean garbage,
Right.
though.
It was always clean.
Relatively clean garbage. But he was wonderful. And at the end of one night, Dean came through with a pot with these pies, and they pied each other. But again, you never knew what gift of joy was going to happen on the set. So it kept it fresh and exciting. And like Diamond said, and like Mike said, we were there for each other. Everybody watched each other's back, and it's one of the rare shows that in Hollywood that was allowed to happen. Do you remember the Stuntman show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Originally, I think I had mentioned this. Brad Pitt, didn't he come in and audition for us, Harriet? Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Brad Pitt came in to audition. He was a young actor. He had just done Thelma and Louise. And he didn't want to be there. He was absolutely miserable. And I remember saying to the director, and the casting people kept saying, he's going to be a big star, he's going to be a big star. And I said, you know what, he probably is going to be a big star because he's gorgeous, he's got this amazing attitude, but it's real attitude. And our set is so special, I would not want somebody that didn't want to be there to be on the set. And I don't remember the gentleman that we hired. But he was very good. I mean, he did a great job.
Well,
But-
do you remember when we hired Jason Priestley as a day actor?
Yes,
Okay, and then right after that, he became 90210,
that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And of course,
In the car show.
the car show downtown LA.
Right.
Kamikaze Kid, that's
Right.
When I
right.
was a kid.
From Desperate Housewives, Terry Hatcher. And yeah, I mean, we've been very
Where was
blessed.
I?
And Northern and Northern Exposure when we did the,
Oh, Catch a Falling Star.
yeah.
Yes, Janine
Janine
Turner.
Turner.
And Brooke Shields.
We launched a lot of actors and actresses.
Brooke Shields, as a matter of fact, I went in to pitch Brooke Shields, and they said to me, no, she's done, no, no, no. I said, look, she deserves a comeback, and I think she's got a funny bone in her. And they said, nobody's ever seen it, and they turned us down and turned me down and turned everybody down, and I said, just bring her in. And I think Don met with her and said, you know what, I think Deborah's right, I think she can do this. And she started her comedy career off of that show that we did. I can't think of the name of it. Leaping of the No,
Yeah.
was that? Oh, that's right, okay.
Yeah, you wrote the one for Elvis Presley.
No, I didn't write.
No, that was one Whitmore directed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought you wrote that one.
that's it. Yes, it was. I mean, and we were talking to some of the actors yesterday who said this was the opportunity to be on this show was such a gift because unlike a show now that has 8 ensemble characters, you were really the guest star. You carried that show right with Scott and Dean as an equal, and Scott and Dean made you feel like an equal, as did everybody on the set.
Everyone.
Yeah.
You know, you became family as soon as you walked through the door, which is why these people still come today to support the fans and everything else. I was going to ask you guys about how you put together the, what do you call it? Remember the opening stunt where Scott's on the dance floor, he leaps in, and it's a...
Oh, yeah, ratchet. We had him on a ratchet. That was on the stuntman shows. He leaps in, and he's standing there, and a guy comes in wearing a trench coat and pulls it back and pulls out a shotgun and blows him away. Now, you think about when he leaps in, he thinks he's on the dance floor of like Saturday Night Live, and he's going, oh, this isn't too bad. Then the guy shows up with a shotgun and blows him through this big plate glass window. And so what we do for that is you wear a vest, a full jerk vest, and there's a ratchet in the back with a cable on it. And when you hit that button, that ratchet just snatches you back. It literally jerks you off your feet. It's a pretty good deal. We had a big set of pads behind the window, so when I went through the window, I hit the pads, of course, you know. But then they did the close-up of Scott, so they have to put him in the vest, and we turn the air down and just put a pad behind him just to get him moving so they can intercut it with the big stuff. And I mean, he was so gung-ho on that. And you'd be surprised how many actors wouldn't even have done that. Wouldn't no more done that than anything. You know, he is definitely the best guy to work for. Unbelievable.
One other thing about Scott is one day we had to go to Lancaster to shut down the boulevard. And it was the first time we actually made a company move where you had to hire hotels and people and stay. And one room, they missed it by one room. And one of the grips wasn't going to get a room. And guess who'd give up his room? Scott. He said, I'll give it up. I'll go find another hotel. So, and that's after about 5 years of filming. So again, you wish in your lifetime you can get a group of 60 people together and be family like that and still talk to each other and still love each other. And everybody, you set this crew together. If we brought the whole crew in here, it would be just one big love fest. It would. And it's, Diamond and I have known each other since we were 18 years old. And so it works well when you have a company that puts somebody together where everybody's friendly.
Why don't you tell them what we did?
What did we do? We used to park cars together.
For Lou Wasserman.
For Lou Wasserman. We used to,
Lou was,
Right.
he was CEO of Universal Studios.
yeah.
He was a guy.
Yeah. Well, we worked really out of a restaurant called Chasen's Restaurant. And then he and the gentleman who ran Chasen's were dear friends, so we were hired. And we did destroy a few cars. I don't remember if you remember.
Is that where you started your stunts with
That's
cars?
what-
No, but one night, this is a funny story. One night, this guy drives this Mercedes up, and he hands Mike a $10 bill. Back then, that $10 bill, that was a lot of money, and says, keep it close. Well, Mike said, okay, so Mike just pulled it up, forgot about it, car's running. 3 hours later, this guy comes out, and he gives him another 10. Thank you for keeping it close. And Mike forgot all about it.
Harriet, did you have a favorite episode?
Well, let's see. It could be the leap home where Don named one of the cows after me. Anybody remember that?
That's right, that's right.
So, I was in charge of typing the script, so when it's on the cast sheet, under animals, I put Harriet and the rest of the herd.
That's cute.
But I do remember, the leap is constructed at the end of the episode that's currently shooting. So we had just wrapped for the season, and the opening episode was going to be Scott as Lee Harvey Oswald. And so he went to makeup, and he was walking down the hall and absolutely blew me away. When I saw him, I said, "Scott, is that you?" I hardly recognized him. So that was another favorite episode of mine. And
We had a great makeup and hair crew.
Yeah.
Remember the makeup they did on Scott when he played his father? What?
Yeah, one of our girls got an Emmy for hair.
That's right, yeah. I mean, the show through her we got a number of Emmys. Ray and makeup.
Right.
I know Mike Zinberg, I think, won
He won
for
For Vietnam.
Vietnam.
yeah.
Right, right. What about you, Ron? What was your favorite episode?
Vietnam show was my favorite.
He got
because-
nominated too, that's why.
That's
yeah,
right.
personal reasons. But it was an era that I could identify with personally, and I thought it was very well done. And we did get the Directors Guild Best Dramatic Award, I think, for that. And
Yeah, we did.
the champagne really flowed that night.
Yeah,
Compliments
it
to
did.
Mr. Zinberg.
Now, you have to say, come on, talk a little bit about the fact that we were in a drought and we had to create the Vietnamese jungle.
We had to go out of town. We went down to Corona and went down to the Rahagi, Rahagi's shooting range, and then shut down their all their gun work. And then we had a thing where, when we found out it was part of the river water for the city, we couldn't put a boat in there. But they had supposed to have a PT boat or a river boat dragging him on a water ski as a joke. Well, they finally said no gas engines are allowed. So Diamond came up, and if you didn't take the credit, he says, "Let's use a helicopter." So there you see the scene of the helicopter coming down this river, which they couldn't say no. And there's Diamond on a tow rope being towed by a helicopter, which I've never seen before. So, and that was Diamond's idea, because we did not know that we could not put a gas boat in there.
How'd you get in the water? I was asking him how he got in the water.
It was really funny because, you open your mouth and then afterwards you think, what the hell did I do that for? Which I didn't know when I first got there, and we were getting ready to do this scene. I stepped in the water and it was you just sank in the mud. I mean, there was no way you could do a shore start. The water wasn't deep enough to do a deep water start. So what I ended up doing was I got a log and I placed the log in the water, and I stood up on top of the log and I took like 5 coils. If you know how to ski, you take 5 coils, and the helicopter was hovering up there, and then I just told him to go, and at the time I just threw the rope out and jumped off the stump and went. I was a pretty good water skier back then when I was a kid, so and that's how it happened. But the water was only 2 to 3 feet deep through this whole thing. And so at the end, this kid is supposed to go, fall off the ski and go underwater. Well, try to go underwater in 2 feet and not be, and I was doing about 60 miles an hour when I had to let go, actually fall so I could go down. because you couldn't just let go and coast. You had to make a fall so you could, so it looks like he disappeared. So when Scott's in the helicopter, he said he's gone. You can't see him. So that was pretty tough, But it all worked out, and everybody was happy, I guess. So.
Very
But I've learned
impressive.
not to stick my foot in my mouth anymore.
You did it. You put yourself in a number of pretty dangerous situations for us, and I think it's, again, what set the mark for the quality of the show. So thank you.
No,
Thank you,
thank you.
Steele.
Thank all of you guys for being here.
All right, Mike, what's your favorite show?
I would have to say that one because it was entirely different. We had to deal with all new areas, water people, the military about trying to bring ships in, putting up crews on distant location, and then unfortunately those nights drinking in the bar and meeting all the local girls.
My friend Mike is known to this day as the unofficial mayor of Corona.
While Diamond just tells us about his favorite show, if anyone has questions for these amazing people, there's mics on either side of the stage, and you can kind of go over there and tell us what you're thinking. Go ahead. What's your favorite show?
I'd have to say The Leap Home. I mean, what a great concept to be able to go back and see your family, once they're gone. I would think that would have to be one of my favorite shows, or the Western one, where he jumps into the gunfighter. And you wrote that for me. Deborah was nice. She got, do a Western, something. And so she wrote that, and that was one of my favorites. But The Leap Home, I think, would be very special to anybody. Think about going back and seeing somebody who's dead, and to be able to recreate that and tell them how much you really do love them. I think that's something very special.
And try not to eat
I
red
agree.
meats.
Say what?
Remember, he told him not to eat meats because it was going to kill him.
Right.
That's
with a heart
right.
attack.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so you can change a little history, Let's see who we've got here. Let's start with this. Tell us your name and where you're from.
My name's Mindy, and I'm from Connecticut. And I just have a comment for Harriet, because I need to thank her, because it's been a long time. And this is my first con. And a long time ago, when I couldn't get to these cons, I wrote her a letter. And I said, I would really love to get an autograph from Scott and Dean. And I sent along something to have signed. And she got it for me, and she returned it. So I just really wanted to thank her very much for doing
Oh, you're
that.
very welcome.
Thanks, Mindy. Okay, over here.
Hi, my name is Dennis. I'm from Chicago.
All right, I'm from Chicago.
Yay! Coming from a Vietnam-era veteran, I want to say thank you to all of you for writing that story. It was a great story. It touched my heart, and I just wanted to say thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
Well,
You're welcome.
we want to thank you for serving.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for serving.
Hi, my name is Nancy. I did love the Vietnam show very much. I'm from West Hills. But my question is, at the very end of the show, I forgot the name of the gal that is the photographer that took the picture where Al turns around and you see a young Dean Stockwell. How did they do that? Do you remember at the
How
very...
did we make Dean look young?
Well, it looked like
A lot of
Dean-
makeup.
No, it actually looked like him when he was in his 20s
They
and
took
30s. And
They took a
was
picture
that, or
and-
was, how
and
did they do
briefed
that?
over the body.
Right, I
They
mean,
did.
all right, these are some of the tricks that we in Hollywood do. The shot of Dean was far enough away so that in the picture itself, you couldn't see the details of Dean. When the shot was shown, the grace of airbrushing was able to age him down. And so it really made it look like, I mean, truthfully, we could take a picture of you, and for the most part, we can make you probably 10 years younger.
I'll take it.
With that.
We'll all
too.
take it.
I like that.
Listen, I got to tell you, it's a very good one.
Okay.
Does that answer
Yes,
the
it helps a
question?
lot. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Anybody over here? Oh, somebody here.
I'm Rich from Denver. We had a snowstorm the day before I flew here, so I didn't know if I was going to make it or not.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks. This is for Mike. I'm a fan of the old 60 series, The Fugitive, that shot a lot on location, and it was like, kind of like Scott being in a different setting every week in different state.
Correct.
Was that, majority of that show was shot on location?
We shot mostly on location, however, we stayed within 30 miles of Los Angeles. We have a zone we try to stay in so we don't have to pay the crew extra money and put them up for the night. So most of the locations, which there was another gentleman named Tony Bowers, who was my associate here, and he and I were like panthers, always looking out for everything and finding new places. And it was really difficult because I was going to say, the nice part about this show was every script was not the same. It wasn't a Gunsmoke where you knew Marshall Dillon, you knew this, you knew what was the beginning. Every time we get a script, it was like, okay, we know Scott's in it, we know Dean's in it, and that's all we knew. And it depends, 1955. I remember one of my favorite was when he became a girl, when he dressed up as,
Which time?
well, yeah, I can't.
In the 50s
Yeah,
or the 60s?
The 50s. But I mean, it's just like 1 minute Scott's a cowboy, the next minute he's a female. And he does have issues, but
He was a monkey.
and a monkey.
Yeah, he was a
So
chimpanzee.
the nice part about the whole thing is that we did try to stay inside the zone. The times we didn't is when we needed to shut down a boulevard. We had to go to Lancaster because we were film friendly. And then we had to go to Corona for the Vietnam show. Then we had a show where we went out.
Went to Big Bear.
No, we never went to Big Bear.
Yeah, we did. We shot the snow episode.
The snow episode, we needed
Oh,
snow.
no, we went up, not up to Big Bear, we went up
Angeles Crest.
Angeles Crest, right.
But that wasn't out of the zone. We stayed, we parked, in other words.
It was the Native American
You
episode.
can't, no, the Native American, yeah, okay.
Freedom. It was freedom.
We have to
Thank you.
drive the crew to 30 miles. We can stop them there. They get into a bus and we could bus them out of the zone. So it was within that, but we never went up to Big Bear, I don't think. We went up to Angeles Crest. a
Angeles
lot.
Crest,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
So it was anything within 30 miles of Los Angeles we stayed, and finding areas were difficult. We'd have to have people take antennas down. We'd have to change awnings. We'd have to do a lot of different things to at least get the best look we could. We went to the Ambassador Hotel when it was the Ambassador Hotel, because that was around since the 30s. We went to ballrooms, old ballrooms. We went to anything that was built in the 20s and 30s.
Yeah, I was wanting to know, like, if you had stuff in the 50s, you'd had to, like, rent old cars.
Oh, yeah, now that was our transportation
Change
people, and yeah,
storefronts.
and they would go and, go on the internet, they would look at the different car, suppliers for the
Collectors, right.
industry and pick those up. But, yeah, we used to go to a place called Values A Ranch, and they had the old Jeeps, the old Western town, the old, different old
Mexican
situations.
And Cameron Burney was brilliant at being able to take a set and make it the period. His attention to detail, what was in the windows of the shops, what would have been there at that time, what was in, in Genesis when he leaped in and the young boy was playing and he wore his Davy Crockett hat. I mean, the attention to detail between wardrobe, Jean-Pierre Dorliac. Was he here yesterday? Jean-Pierre was amazing. Cameron Burney was amazing. Like I said, we had an incredible team.
Yeah, Cameron was a great guy because we had to work really close together because he would have an idea for an interior of a set, and sometimes we would build on stage, but we'd have to find the exterior. And on the average, we would probably hit it 90% of the time, and every once in a while we'd miss. And I remember one time where Cameron just went off on Tony and I because we wanted a certain location, and he already built a set which we didn't know. And so we had to crawl in on hands and knees and crawl up to his leg and hug his legs for about 5 minutes before he liked us again. That's a true story. Yeah, that was a true story.
I held the leash for both of them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And Bob Ziliaks.
Matter
Bob
of fact,
Ziliaks.
Bob Ziliaks is one of my neighbors now.
Yeah?
And he's out of the business now and retired. But all of us, like I said, it was all about set dressing. It was all about the look to make you believe that we're in that year. And I think we did a terrific job. And I think you actually believed it.
Yeah, I think so too. Question?
Hi, I'm
One thing you should, too bad you can't be there. When we did have our concept meetings, that was probably the most exciting part about making the thing. It all germinated from there, and it all grew, and all of a sudden people started getting creative and started coming up with better ideas, even in the script, and then Don would go back and write to it. And then I have to admit one thing. You'd walk by Don's office, and Don would be behind his electric typewriter. I don't remember the name.
For a long time, yes. We
And
did get him
he
to a
would be
computer.
Going, and he would actually be playing out the scenes, and you'd walk by his office and you think, that man's nuts. But he would just be the most, I think the best time of his life is when he's behind the typewriter and
Yeah.
making this happen. And he just comes up with creative ideas. He's a very talented man. Kept
Very
me
close.
working too.
Kept you working too. Question.
my name's Heather. I'm from Massachusetts,
Hi,
and
Heather.
We've been hearing so many great stories about Scott and everything. But I have to admit that Dean was the reason I really loved the show. So I was just wondering if anyone had any stories about working with him, any funny memories or anything.
Well, I think when we're talking about Scott, we're also talking about Dean because they were a duo, and Scott never ever caused a problem. He was just always there. He knew his lines. He never caused a problem. I really believe, I think them as one because they were just the part of the energy that kept us going. Because don't forget, we worked 12 to 18, 19 hours a day. And numerous times on bad locations, I remember wrapping up at 11 o'clock at night, going home, showering, shaving, going back into my car, go to the location, and have the guard wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So they were long, grueling hours we used to put in.
I have a Dean story.
Good.
I used to go to the set a lot to get pictures signed, and I would come onto the set, and Dean would be sitting at a table, and he'd jump up, and I said, "Oh, Dean, you don't have to get up every time I enter the set." And he said, "I will always stand up when you enter a room." It was so heartwarming. And then my favorite story is the last episode. Unfortunately, mirror image, unfortunately, we knew while we were shooting it that we weren't going to be picked up. And every birthday, we always had a birthday cake for everybody, and I was kind of in charge of getting a birthday cake for Scott and Dean, and we'd come up with some funny thing to write on the cake. And it was Dean's birthday the next day after we wrapped, so we moved it up a day, and Scott said, "It's our last day, I don't want any visitors, I just want my cast and crew around me." And Dean was in that great white uniform, the Admiral's uniform, and he was kind of on a dais, and we presented him with the cake and the candles, and he blew them out, and he looked over at us, and he said, "You know what I wished for? Just one more year." And that's Dean.
Thank you.
I think I told, if you were here on Friday, I was telling my Dean story. And my favorite Dean story was on Another Mother. And I had written for Troyan, her kind of first speaking role. And I had taught her lines, and she was really excited to do it. And Dean walked onto the set. And he looked at Troyan, who he'd seen several times down there, and he looked at me, looked at Troyan again, and he walked over to me and said, "Why is she here?" And I said, "Oh, I wrote her, I wanted to see what Mom and Dad did. I wanted her to experience it. She's really good. She knows all her lines." And he said, "Do you need the money?" And I said, "What? What?" He said, "Do you need the money?" I said, "Well, no. I really just want." He said, "Do not take away her childhood." And his words and the look in his eyes was so poignant that it made me realize, here's a man who was a Broadway star at 5 years old, how he grew up taking care of his family, and he didn't get to be a kid. And it made me step back and say, you know what, you're absolutely right. This is her life. When she wants to do it, which she's doing it now, she's graduating from USC. She's a fabulous actress, but it was her choice. And, I wish her such success because she started with a great. Dean stayed by her side every second she was on that set to protect her, and it made you go, what did he go through in the course of his time there that made him say that, and that made him say, please don't do this to this little girl. And I respect him to this day for it, and if he were here, I'd thank him again.
Well, there's one more Dean's story I liked, and it had nothing to do about our show. It's when he got the star on Hollywood Boulevard.
Right.
He was so humbled and kept saying, I don't deserve this. My friend needs this or has it. Here's a man who been in the business since 5 years old, and he was almost embarrassed about getting a star on Hollywood Boulevard, which I thought was really classy. He didn't think he deserved it. He just was totally shocked that he would get one. So it was a man who had no ego, and then this business is really rare.
He had great humility.
Yes.
Do you have something you want to share?
You know what? I'm sorry to say it was 20 years ago, and I'm sure that there were a lot of funny stories because he was a very funny man, always smoking a cigar, but I don't remember anything
Did
that.
he bring in a stripper?
Yeah.
Okay, what was that story? It was a
Well,
birthday surprise, wasn't it?
Well, some things I think should be behind the scenes.
It was a birthday surprise.
Yeah, something. Well, I know, but let's give him well, for one of his birthdays, we all chipped in and bought him a stripper to come in on the set, and it was, and she did a dance, a lap dance, and some other thing. It was very, and he was very humble. I mean,
He did blush.
That's the way he was. He was, Now Scott probably would have got up and danced with her, but it was very cute. He was very shy and humble, and in the back of his mind, he's going, yeah. But
He
was
was
a very
Al.
humble man.
Just one word, he was a gentleman.
He was an absolute gentleman. We have one question over here.
Hi, I'm Debbie from Dallas, Fort Worth.
Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
Always gets a reaction. Hi. This is mostly, I guess, for Diamond. Listen to you tell the helicopter story. Were you conservative and you did a lot of just what they told you to do, or did you use this as an excuse to say, ooh, I always wanted to try that. I want to suggest this. Why don't we do this?
You know what? I had a lot of freedom to do that, but I kind of listened to whatever Don wanted to do. He just knew the right things to write, and so I just kind of went along with whatever he wrote. And sometimes he'd ask me questions of how to do this or how to do that, and I would tell him. But mainly, the writers, we had such a great writing staff that everybody wrote, and if there was a question, they would ask me, how can we do this to make it work? And I would tell them my idea of how it to work. But I didn't really come up and design anything ever. That's really not
that
my
I disagree
job.
with.
I was going to disagree with
that's
that
not-
too.
that's
Disagree with
really
because I'll
my
tell you
job.
why. We spent hours and
well-
days looking for these riverboats. And we finally got the Navy to okay bringing a riverboat in, and then we found out we couldn't put the boat in the water. And we were in a meeting, and Don's going, what do we do, guys? And we're all going, I don't know.
That's one incident.
No, but I'm just saying, but for the helicopter thing.
Yeah.
That was you and only you coming up with that idea.
One time, one incident, okay? But Don, I in his behalf, I have to say, I've been in the business now for 42 years, and I have never, ever seen a writer-producer sit down in a production meeting and rewrite a script while you're having the meeting. I mean, it was unbelievable to me. You would get one script, by the time we were done with the production meeting, he would have a whole different, it was all the same idea, but everything was changed. He was fabulous that way. He still is. He can just, the things that come in this man's mind to write, it's amazing to me.
He was a great mentor
Because
to everybody.
I couldn't write a Dick and Jane book, and I'll be, but this man, to change the stuff he could do in a production meeting, it was amazing.
Hey, Diamond, I have a story for you. One day, the supervising producer came in with the script that was shooting and said to Don, "We're over budget, what do we do?" Well, Don took the script, flipped a few pages, picked up a pen, and went like this. Xing out scenes. Now, it was all in his head.
Yeah,
Can
he
you
knew.
that was a miracle. How he just
But you have to look at it too. I mean, Don was an amazing writer, is an amazing writer. I think he's an unsung hero in Hollywood and should have been honored so much more than he was. But he could take a script, and I take great pride in learning from him and edit it like nobody I'd ever seen, But he could also take a show and edit it. There was a show that we did that took place in the 50s that dealt with the Bay of Pigs. And it wasn't working, and I asked him, I said, can't we make it so that it has an immediacy to it? And I said, isn't there a way that we can make it seem like this film is happening right now? But in those days, it was shot on film, then you had to take it to the studio. So unlike today, where you're in the midst of it as it's happening, we couldn't do that. But he said, this is a great idea. Here's what we can do. And we went in and re-edited that show to add a level of immediacy to it, that even though you knew what was going to happen within the history of it, the tension was created in the editing. So his gift as an editor, I think, is both on the page and in film is amazing. We have one more question over there.
Morgan from Houston. Hi, Morgan. And my question was for you, Deborah. There have been some other shows where writers have wanted to go forward and have wanted to produce other episodes, and they've put out novels. And I know you've put out novels, and they're great. There was a large book that was put out about the series that never was, which was Star Trek II series, which was going to be on a Paramount network, and then it never happened. And there was a large book that was put out with all of the ideas that were going to be in it that didn't make it. And you had mentioned yesterday that you had some of that 6th season of Quantum Leap. You had some ideas. And I was wondering if anything has ever, if there's ever been an idea, I know it's been 15 years, if there's ever been an idea to say, well, here's some ideas we had, and then maybe...
It was never put down. I mean, we until we knew we were not going forward, we were going forward. And it was one of those shows where we could do anything you could imagine. We had a great, cast. Scott was every man, and woman sometimes. And Chimp. But yeah, we had some amazing ideas that we wanted to explore and didn't get to. The novelists that wrote books really took the show in heart, and I think the novels that I have read captured the essence of the show and the history of the show, and I thank them. I know Chris is here, and who else is? Right, are any of the authors here? Stand up, say hi, if you don't know. But we never had the chance to do that. I know what you're speaking about, that book, but we never had the chance to do that. And, who knows? As long as the fans are here, I think that there is an opportunity. We've talked about doing movies. We've talked about bringing a show back. But the magic that was this show it is a rare jewel. One more question over here.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks. My name's Alexis. I'm from the area. And I was wondering, did you ever have historians or physicists or people of that sort consulting on the show regularly, or regular members of the crew, or was that just kind of you guys did all that research on your own? How were you able to? I mean, there were some things that came up, like I never knew that 911 didn't exist before the 1970s, is that right? Stuff like that was inserted into the show that was really interesting, and also, really big historical events in history. How did you
Each
get
of
your
us
information?
received a history of the 20th century. And to the credit of the writers, because I was head writer, we did an amazing amount of historical research. Universal has an incredible library, and in that library, you could request certain things from certain periods. So they would send, when I did the Color of Truth, they sent me articles about the South and pre-civil rights in that time. And I found an article of a man who had worked for 35 years and sat in the kitchen every day while she sat in the dining room and had her tea. So that scene between Sam and Miss Melanie was based on a real piece of history that occurred, and the way I got to change it was, in that real history, they never sat down at the table. And I said, you know what, this is a man who's from the present, actually from the future, but he's a man who's from the present, and his sensibility would be, no matter who I am, I'm a human being. And this woman is alone, and I'm alone, and it would make more sense for me to cross that threshold and sit with her. And even though she protested, it was the impetus that made her stand up to society in the end, to make that piece a story that showed how we as individuals can influence history. Does that answer?
Yeah, thank you.
That's just one example. All the music, all the research, again, it was a team effort.
Then did you ever consult physicists or scientists for the show? I mean, I know that there wasn't a huge scientific basis in it, but it gets one's mind working and wondering, like
You
how
had to
much
do
of this-
some research on it. I know the book, I gave a book to Don when the show was being created, called A Brief History in Time by Stephen Hawking. And the whole concept of what quantum leaping was in that book. And we talked about the idea of instantaneously shifting from one place to another. And in essence, this show rewrote the known rules of time travel, which is what the press said. We weren't adhering to the rules of time travel. So I don't remember a physicist working with us on the show. I know we did have technical advisors for a number of the episodes, the Vietnam episode, anything that had to do with the military, we brought in advisors. And anytime you could get in a conversation.
Sometimes even 20 years later, sometimes even now. What was it about this show that made you take those risks, that made it so much ahead of its time? Where was that coming from? This is to the whole panel.
It's kind of to you. I mean, take it.
I'll tell a story in the sense that the first season that we did, I wrote The Color of Truth, and I wrote What Price Gloria. And at first, a number of people said, don't do that till year 3. Don't do that till year 3. And to Don's credit, to Brandon Tartikoff's credit, they, took off the shackles and said, write what you want, write what you feel. And so I really felt this was an incredible opportunity as a writer to look at those social events and to comment on them from our point of view. So if you look at a lot of the shows that I got to write, I talked about sexual harassment, I talked about racism, I talked about women's liberation, because those are things that I believe are ongoing. Gay rights, Bobby Duncan, who's no longer with us, about gay rights in the military. So the show became that kind of platform, and you're right. Television still today does not represent the opportunity, or does not explore the opportunity to talk to the public and get them thinking. Because one of the other gifts that this show had, and I honor it again, and this is Don at his best, the show had the ability to say, think about this, and then let the audience make the decision themselves. I think, unless you guys have something last to say, there's...
It's up to them.
To them, they don't.
Any more questions? I think that's... Oh, okay. I have one last thing that I want to do, and I have to give this to Brian and again, the team. Deborah Sell and Adina are some incredible fans that have been with Harriet for a very, very long time. when she discovered you guys on the internet and brought it back to us, and she opened my eyes to, I think, the future of where entertainment has gone today. And I continue to pursue it there. I wanted to acknowledge these ladies, but I also wanted to say thank you to Brian A. again for putting on an incredible convention. But I said to him, you know, we should give Harriet an award, because the reason these cons happen is because she got behind it and she made it happen, and they took me to heart. Harriet?
Oh, my God.
For your continued support of Quantum Leap fandom from the Leap.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody, have fun. I think there's some surprises today and some people today you want to see. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Big thanks and
I think so.
rounding applause to Mike and Ron and Harriet, Diamond, of course, and the lovely Deborah Pratt for moderating this. Fantastic group of people. We're so blessed to have them here. So blessed. Thank you folks so much.